Morning. To you all, to the bravest of the participants who made it this morning that early, but it's for the good cause because we will be talking like the first plenary session. We'll be tackling, let's say, one of the backbone of any energy discussion or any energy markets, and we've experienced it with the war in Ukraine. It's the geopolitical aspect of the corridors or the corridor of geopolitics and energy. And I believe the experts, and I want to congratulate the organizers for the choice of the very precise profile to give us some insights and analyze the current situation and as well as future forecasts concerning geopolitics and how this energy market is evolving, like not yearly, but daily or maybe even hourly. Anyways, a quick just reminder of the program of today. So we have two plenary sessions. So the first one is about geopolitics, as I just mentioned, and then Middle East and Africa's commercial opportunities. Then the working session will get back to place with some technological value chain storage panels, as well as innovation and social acceptance and impacts. This afternoon, so right after lunch, we will be having a diplomacy session, and we will have a discussion with the ambassadors and the representatives, diplomats of countries here in Morocco. So we will be discussing this from the stance as well of diplomacy. So we will be discussing energy, PTX from the diplomatic point of view. And last but by no means least, we have the ceremony the closing ceremony. And as a matter of fact, after yesterday's dinner, some of you got really excited about the initiative Operation Power to People and decided to make even more donations. And we will give them the opportunity to share their commitment. So without further ado, I'm very glad to introduce the chairman of the first session of this morning's first session. His name is Badrikin. He's the president of the Permanent Commission of Energy Transition and Decarbonization at the CGM, CGM being the private sector confederation or corporation. Badrikin, if you want, join me to the stage under your applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Khadija Ihsan, for the kind introduction. I'm very glad to be here today for the early risers. I have a panel with friends, well known, with a lot of expertise in this field. I'm very proud then to be the chair of this session. We have today Nadia Hackinson. I will introduce you then later on. Also then my dear friend Frank Wouters. We have Cédric Brul from Belgium, and also Professor Mika Mered, connected in France. I know, Mika, you will have then another conference in maybe then less than 10 minutes, and this is why we will start with your speech, or I have then a few questions, or I will ask you then now. As I said, session with the friends. Mika, we were friends, but during the World Cup, then when we had then the game between Morocco and France, it was then very difficult. Then, but then a few weeks later, we are becoming then again friends. Mika, thank you very much for your time. I would like then to ask then Nadia, Frank, and Cédric to join me on the stage. Yeah, very briefly, Mika Mered created the first hydrogen geopolitics course worldwide. He's an analyst, author. He now teaches at Sciences Po, HEC, the École de Guerre, and the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University. Convinced of the need for dialogue between research and companies, he's a member of the steering committee of the Hydrogen Task Force of MEDEF International. This is like the CGM in Morocco, and France Hydrogène, and he was named as an ambassador for green hydrogen in June by the International Association for Hydrogen Energy. Okay. Mika, I would like then to ask you, then our topic, I have some points which I would like then also then to share with the audience. I will do it then after, but I would like then to start and to ask you, Mika, from your point of view, what is required to define a worldwide suitable business case for hydrogen from your point of view? Mika, the micro is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Badr. Thank you so much, dear friends. Assalamu alaikum. It's a real pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to be with you. I would have wished to be in Marrakesh, especially regarding the situation. But here I'm in Paris due to prior commitment, and I'm really, really sorry. With that said, there's plenty of ways to answer your question, dear friend. And I would say that it's just so hard now to summarize what's happening in just 1 year in the field of hydrogen from a geopolitical point of view. There's just so much going on every year. There's more and more and more. So maybe I'll share like three takeaways. The first thing is we are seeing new narratives emerging. First narrative that is emerging is, and especially strong in the US or in Europe, it's don't buy Chinese stuff. Once again, just like what we've seen, what we've experienced in the solar industry or in the wind industry, this narrative now is also happening in Europe in hydrogen. So that's a shifting narrative. Another shifting narrative, something that is growing, and also in Morocco, by the way, or in Mauritania, it's natural hydrogen. And especially now with countries like France discovering some very possibly huge natural hydrogen deposits. And here I'm saying possibly, and I'm taking this with a lot of, many pinches of salt. The very fact that it exists, that it was produced as a research result, changed a lot of things, not just in France, in Europe, but also you will find that in the US, you will find that in Australia. So natural hydrogen is changing some narratives and perspectives. And then there's another key element that is changing the game. It is the fact that investors now are basically kind of putting the foot on the brake. We've had this frenzy of hydrogen projects all over the world, frenzy of announcements. Only so few announcements have actually reached FID, final investment decision. Only about 15% of large-scale projects in the world have reached FID so far. So basically here, what we are seeing in a nutshell from a geopolitical point of view and with some impact on the industry and economics is that the hydrogen space is maturing. Basically, it is maturing. And in that space, I would say that there's one key thing that everyone who wants to develop a hydrogen project or a hydrogen strategy, if you're a government or if you're a regional government, needs to focus on. You need to update your doctrine, your hydrogen doctrine or thinking. You need to update it. And that is something that we are seeing in 2023. Many countries are now reaching not just the first wave of developing a strategy. We now have 59 countries in the world with a hydrogen strategy. The latest one being Kenya, who's presented their strategy just 2 weeks ago. But on top of that, we are reaching now the second wave or even third wave in some states of hydrogen strategy updates. Think US, think Japan, think Germany. And these countries are updating their strategy maybe much faster than they had thought in the first place because they need to adapt to such a changing environment. So in the case of Morocco, and I will stop with that, don't worry, I'm not going to be much longer. In the case of Morocco, we now have the Moroccan offer. It's there or almost there, okay. But the strategy that was put forth in 2021 already needs an update. because at the time the Moroccan strategy was designed just a couple of years ago, the largest project, green hydrogen project in the world, was a mere 100 megawatt or 200 megawatts of capacity. Now the largest hydrogen projects in the world are 10 to 15 gigawatts, and this is changing everything. If you look at what happened at the last G7 meeting with the agreement for the IMEC, so-called trade corridor from India to Europe through the Arabian Peninsula, Israel, and then Greece all the way to Central Europe, this is an artifact, a beacon, showing you that now, if you want to develop something in hydrogen, you have to go big or you go home. That's how you get investors, that's how you get credibility, and that's how you will get ultimately the off-takers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mika, for your time and also then presentation. I would like now to move and then to share with you. That works. I would like then to start then the session as I wanted them to do. We have to be then flexible. Of course, with the disasters we are experiencing, we are aware of our common social and environmental responsibility. Global warming and climate change doesn't have borders. In recent years, hydrogen has become a central component of the global energy transition. And those compliance with global climate goals, hydrogen and its downstream products, power to X, open up new opportunities for decarbonization, especially in industries and sectors where electrification is difficult. Today, a growing number of countries have developed their hydrogen strategy. At the World Climate Meeting in Glasgow, 32 countries and the EU agreed to work together on the development and use of hydrogen. The global energy transition is also then leading to geopolitical changes. Traditional fossil fuels exporters face the challenge of having to adapt their economic systems. At the same time, new opportunities are emerging for many countries to diversify their economies and become producers and exporters of energy. Hydrogen plays an important role here as it enables both the transport and storage of energy from renewable energy sources. Hydrogen will have a fundamental impact on energy supply chains in the coming years. These include the fact that the number of countries that have good conditions, like Morocco, for the production of renewable energies will and will become energy exporters. In addition, a regionalization of energy networks and the race for technological leadership are expected. Trade in hydrogen and its derivatives, as well as investment flows, will impact bilateral relationships and create new dependencies and connections. Global supply chains face a variety of geopolitical challenges. Those risks are related to the possible political, economic, technical, and social challenges of an export and transit country, as well as the bilateral relationships between trading partners. As hydrogen becomes increasingly relevant worldwide, we have to avoid that hydrogen deliveries could be used as political pressure like fossil fuels. There are different important geopolitical challenges, dimensions of the hydrogen supply chain: political, economic, technical, social factors, as well as bilateral relationships. Of course, we have to take geopolitical risk into account in our decisions to build then hydrogen supply chains. And I see Morocco as one of the best options. Yeah, sorry for the delay. This is what I wanted to say at the beginning. And today morning, we will discuss with the other panelists, well-known experts, about the best utility corridors and also what would be then the best cooperation models and what are the needed infrastructures. What is also then the place of petro-states? A lot of questions we will tackle with our esteemed panelists. Without transition, I would like then to move to our second speaker, Nadia Hackinson. Nadia Hackinson holds a Master Science in Industrial Engineering and Management from the Institute of Technology at Linköping University in Sweden. Nadia held different roles across a variety of geographies and business units at Siemens, starting her career with the company in Finspång in 2005. From January 2017 to October 2019, Nadia was the Vice President and Country Division Lead for Power Generation Services in Thailand and Myanmar. During Nadia's time in this role, Thailand's energy infrastructures underwent rapid development with over 70 units of the Siemens Energy SGT-800 gas turbine deployed in the country. Since October 2019, Nadia Hackinson has been the Vice President for Energy Services, Region Africa, and Managing Director Morocco and Ivory Coast at Siemens Energy. As Managing Director for Africa, Nadia is responsible for supporting Siemens Energy business across the continent, as well as developing opportunities to meet the challenges of the energy transition while improving access to stable, affordable, and sustainable energy. Power to X is also one important topic of the topics addressed by Nadia Hackinson. We're very proud because Nadia is Swedish, but also then Moroccan. Nadia, I would like then to start and then to ask you two questions. How will the hydrogen economy impact trade, cooperation, and competition among countries and regions? And also then the second one, how will the new alliances and partnerships shape the global governance of this hydrogen economy? Please.
Thank you, Bader, for the great introduction. Good morning, Sabah al-Khair. I'm very proud to be here today and share my reflections on this topic, very important topic, because what we're essentially seeing is a redefinition or an expansion of the trade infrastructure. And this, of course, is evolving very rapidly. What this means with the hydrogen economy is, of course, that the power balance is shifting based on where the abundance of renewable energy exists, which of course then offers a great opportunity for Morocco and for all the other countries in Africa, which do have abundant resources of wind and solar, to develop their renewable energy infrastructure and become green energy hubs, exporting energy to the demand centers in Europe, but also in other regions, right? So it offers an opportunity to also socially and economically develop countries in Africa with the industrialization that it also offers an opportunity to. So it's not only the hydrogen derivatives that we would foresee is being traded, imported, and exported, but also as a consequence, the industrialization will offer other commodities, right? I mean, I foresee that in Africa we will have premium brands being manufactured and delivered out of the continent, and it's now a definition of which countries are the first movers who are shaping this. And Morocco is definitely one of them, being geographically having the proximity to Europe, but also other aspects of an already well-established renewable infrastructure. So any country who's already having a fairly well-developed infrastructure has the sort of the best position to become a first mover. But what does it mean to be a first mover? A first mover also needs to invest, right? And work in creating those alliances with other countries in terms of who is the off-taker, who has the demand. Essentially, it's the basics of market. It's demand and supply. And therefore, those alliances with, in this case, European countries and African countries are quite essential, but also the alliances within Africa. I think we also anticipate that the Pan-African trade, Pan-African market will hopefully also develop as a consequence of these first mover countries in Africa actually develop an energy carrier that can be used to end poverty, increase industrialization, develop the standard of living for societies. But in terms of these alliances, I would say one aspect that again, first movers need to do is support standardization and regulation. This is still greenfield, right? So the first projects in the market are essentially helping define how are these projects going to be developed? What is the regulation that is needed? What is the best possible also frame agreements and all the commercial aspects that is behind that? And that those are complex topics, as we are actually talking about a greenfield topic. And another element is, of course, research and development, because it's also a competitive environment when it comes to the products, like the products that we design and manufacture, the electrolyzers, right? And also, we all know that in the first phase of a new innovation, of a new market, what is important is competitiveness. So we will, of course, see a first phase now. We're seeing it already. It requires a lot of investment, not just in terms of the financing backing that is required, but also investment in terms of capabilities, resources that is needed for technology companies such as ours, as well as all the great companies that are spearheading this development into feasibility studies, into research and development, into the material science that is needed to consistently reduce also the cost, because that is not to be ignored. And competition, we need to remember, is also good, because I think competition is needed between countries, right? The pursuit of where is these green energy hubs actually going to sit, right? Both in terms of per region, but also between countries and between companies. But we also need the collaboration, right? Between governments, between private sector, academia. We need to think about the skills that are required. And we need to remind ourselves that this can also not be a development which we have seen in some cases with other commodities, where it's an extraction and taking away the resources without developing the continent, the countries that sit with the resource. So those are some of the first thoughts before we hand over.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nadia. I would like now to move to our second expert, Mr. Frank Wouters, here Senior Vice President of Reliance Industries Limited. He is also then Advisory Board Chairman of DII MENA Hydrogen Alliance. Frank has a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering from the Delft University. He has been leading renewable energy projects, transactions and technology developments for more than 30 years and played a lead role in the development of renewable energy projects all over the world. He served as Deputy Director General of the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, from 2012 to 2014. And Frank has served on the board of energy companies in Europe, Asia, US, Africa, and currently serves as Senior Vice President, as I said, from the new at Reliance Industries, co-president of the Long Duration Energy Storage Council, chairman of the MENA Hydrogen Alliance, chairman of the DII Advisory Board, board member of the Ammonia Energy Association, director of the MedGem Network, and I have a long list. Frank is impressive, and he is also an author of several books. Frank, we heard then the statements and explanation from Nadia. I would like also then to ask you from your point of view, what is required in defining a worldwide suitable business case for hydrogen, and maybe also to focus on the role of infrastructures.
Yes, thanks, Badr. And as Her Excellency, the Minister yesterday said, half of us are evangelists and the other half are still somewhat on the fence. Well, I'm very clearly an evangelist. I like to preach, and I've preached renewables and now hydrogen for more than 30 years. And because I have the microphone, you shouldn't have given me a microphone. I'll start preaching a little bit. Because I think, we still need to understand the fundamentals, and this is something that I feel we're on a journey towards, but not yet fully finished. If I look at the overall energy picture, then at the moment we have about 20% electricity of all final energy demand and 80% are molecules. And we've done great at the electricity part. I mean, right now, as we all know, green electricity is by some margin the cheapest form of power generation. If you build a solar farm right now, it's actually cheaper than keeping a coal plant running in many locations. And that is growing. We keep making it cheaper by just deploying it more and more. But it's only 20%. So we've solved the 20%, but we haven't really tackled the 80%. So part of the solution is to increase electricity, which is of course also something that we're doing. We're using electricity for now for driving cars and heat pumps in houses, etc. So there is a lot to be gained by electrifying more and making that cleaner. But we also know that there is a challenge with electricity, and that's mostly with how to store that over a long period of time, and also transmission. If I look at Germany in 2015, Germany paid 400 million euro to curtail wind farms in the north. And unfortunately, that problem hasn't been solved because last year it was actually 4 billion euros. So we've increased the amount that we pay in Germany to wind farms in the north for not producing because we can't fix the grid tremendously 10 times. And that is a real problem. The IEA thinks that, or estimated that within the European Union and the United States, it takes more than 10 years, 10.2 years to be precise, to build new transmission. People don't like overhead power lines. There's environmental concerns. There's issues of land, etc. So infrastructure is hard. I mean, we have to do it. There's absolutely no question about it, but it's hard. Why am I saying this? Because I do think that there is a limit to how much we can electrify. Direct electrification is fantastic. Nobody argues that. But I haven't seen a credible scenario where electricity becomes more than 50%. Maybe you can do 60. But it won't be 80 because of this issue. Now, then the question is, okay, what are we doing with the other half, which are molecules? Because that's coal now, that's diesel, that's natural gas. What are the options? We have basically three things. We can do biomass, which is not infinitely scalable. There is issues with monocultures, land use, competition with food, all of that. So I do think there is limitations. The other one is to keep burning hydrocarbons. We like to burn things. But then if it has to be clean, we have to capture carbon and store it. That's also something that you can do. You need point sources of CO2. So for example, you can't do it on a truck. So again, limitations. Also, you don't have the geology everywhere to store CO2, and there is a cost, and that cost will increase over time. And then we have hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives. And if I look at hydrogen, it looks and feels and smells a lot like photovoltaics. You can do it at any scale and anywhere. We have solar panels on the North Pole. Yes, of course, the costs are high, but it works. And we can do the same with hydrogen. It's very versatile. And don't get distracted by keyboard warriors on the internet that lecture you on thermodynamics. Whenever I write something on the internet, about half of all the people love it, and the other half lecture me on thermodynamics, why it doesn't make sense, and why you shouldn't do it, and why we lose energy, etc., etc. The advantages are in infrastructure and in storage. If I look at the overall energy system, for example, let's look at Europe again. We currently have about 400 billion cubic meters of gas consumption per year and 100 billion cubic meters in storage, because there is a seasonality in supply and demand. And that seasonality won't go away even if we switch to 100% renewables. So then we need also storage in the same orders of magnitude. Storing electricity is not possible. The definition of electricity is the flow of an electron. So the only thing you can do is convert it to something else. But hydrogen you can store, a molecule you can store, and that's compared to batteries or even pumped hydro is relatively cost effective. But the orders of magnitudes are huge. We need thousands of terawatt hours for Europe alone, and anybody that's looking at this will come to the same conclusion. So that is actually something that is very often forgotten when we digress into thermodynamics and energy losses, etc., efficiency. We also need to think overall system cost. And their infrastructure and storage are crucial, and that's very cheap for hydrogen, much cheaper than for electricity. So then the question is, and Badr and myself and Dr. Sambir, we worked in 2019 on a study that looked at North Africa and Europe. And basically the high level vision was to, for Europe, if it has to be clean by 2050, to do roughly half with electricity, the other half with hydrogen. And then if you look at Europe, it's very congested, a lot of people, not much potential for renewables because you need thousands of gigawatts of capacity. Import. So 50% of Europe's hydrogen would have to be imported, also electricity. And that is big numbers. Then you look where you're getting it from. Obviously, you look at your neighbors. Most trade is with your neighbors. Morocco makes, all the sense in the world, but there is, of course, a whole southern Mediterranean neighborhood that you can look towards, and that you connect with relatively cost-effective infrastructure. Now, the other beauty about infrastructure, especially in Europe, is that we have 200,000 kilometers of high pressure gas pipes that are already there. Now, there is a Gas for Climate coalition, which is 32 European gas TSOs that are working on hydrogen backbones, basically converting the natural gas pipes. And it's technically feasible. I mean, there is a small percentage that you can't do, but with minor investments, you can actually use that infrastructure. So already there, you see a solution. The issue that we have with electricity infrastructure, which is hard, you then convert it to hydrogen, and you can use the existing infrastructure. So those are some of the things that I do think that we need to keep in mind when thinking about hydrogen and the cost and the energy losses and the efficiencies, etc., where people get carried away and then they make the comparison between electric vehicle and a fuel cell vehicle, and that is nonsense because we lose all this energy. Bigger picture is that we will have a whole lot of hydrogen just because it makes sense from a cost perspective. And then you find applications where where that can work.
Thank you very much, Frank. I won't call you evangelist. I would like more than to call you a game changer. And I think that we need a lot of game changers. I know that then today morning also one of another game changer is also then here in our room. A few months ago, we had an introduction of a very innovative hydrogen car in Morocco. And I think that Fawzi Najah is there, and I would like then to pay tribute to him for all what he's doing. And we need a lot of game changers in our world. I would like now then to move to our third or fourth. Of course, we have also then to integrate also then Mika. I would like then to introduce Cédric Bruhl. He is a project and international in charge of the project and international development of the Belgian Hydrogen Council. Cédric is titular of a Master in Business Engineering of HOC Ulk Business School of the University of Liège, and in Science of Environment Management of UCL, Université Catholique de Louvain. In the end of 2022, the 2H2 Regional Cluster Organization in Belgium and Waterstofnet in Flanders and Cluster Tweed in Wallonia have joined forces and launched the Belgian Hydrogen Council to consolidate and strengthen Belgium's position in Europe and on the global stage as a pioneering hub of excellence for clean hydrogen. Cédric Bruhl is involved in the coordination of Belgian Hydrogen Council. He is also managing director, and we had in my former life also then a lot of cooperation with the Cluster Tweed. He's the managing director at the Cluster Tweed, Sustainable Energy Cluster, and Cluster H2O, Water Cluster in Wallonia and Brussels. He's the co-writer of the Industrial Hydrogen Roadmap for Wallonia in 2018 and has founded H2 Hub Wallonia in 2021, a dedicated H2 ecosystem cluster for Wallonia. He is also a board member of the International Clean Tech Network, a very important network of clean tech clusters in the world's leading clean tech regions, aiming to generate new business opportunities, enhance competitive advantages, and create value for companies, knowledge institutions, and local authorities across cluster regions. Cédric, I know that the hydrogen strategy of Belgium has as one of the first objectives to position Belgium as an import and a transit hub for renewable, for clean, green molecules in Europe, connected with Germany, France, and other Netherlands and other European countries, and engage with key partners in order to open import routes for renewable molecules in the EU. Cédric, we would like then to ask, what are the type of partnerships which might be useful to go one step further in this cooperation between Belgium, Europe, and of course then between then Belgium and Morocco, and Europe and Morocco.
Hi everyone. So I'm very pleased to be here. I know that there are quite big delegation of Belgium players. We are a small country, but still very dynamic. So I'm very aligned with what has been said before. And I think Belgium is an example of what Frank has just said before, because Belgium is a very important off-taker for the future consumption. We have a big chemical industry still in Belgium. We have already the biggest infrastructure for gas for Europe. We are the main import hub for gas for Europe. We have the bigger network of hydrogen still already built, and we have the gas operator, the TSO of Belgium Fluxys, that is planned to invest to connect hydrogen and CO2 pipes between Belgium, Germany, Netherlands, France. So, sure, we as Belgium, we take a place to be an interconnected hub for Europe. So we see hydrogen as a big opportunity for Belgium to stay at this place, because we have already this place to be. We are in the heart of Europe with Brussels and connected to all the big producing and big countries around us. So it's our strength is to be connected as Belgium. I very like the speech of Frank, because he mentioned that the biggest and the important thing is to speak about renewables first, because we are speaking about hydrogen, but first we need, it's just a vector, so we need a production. And so that's why we need to work with the country where there are a massive amount of renewables that is available. Morocco, for sure, is very well placed. There are other countries where Belgium is trying to be involved, and I think it's good examples of how can we involve Belgium with Morocco. So Belgium has signed 2 MOUs recently. One is with Oman, and this Oman cooperation, we see firstly there is an investment from the TSO in Belgium directly in there will be a shareholder of the gas TSO of Oman. So it's really concrete. And in this investment, there is opportunities and room to make a project. One of the projects is about certification. So how can we certify that this green hydrogen is coming in Europe, and with how many amounts connected to the regulation in Europe, connected to the stronger regulation about the guarantee of origin. So it's quite complex, but I think we see the maturity of the hydrogen market is growing. I've seen, because I wrote the hydrogen roadmap for my region 6 years ago, and I was a believer, and now I see all the barriers. And so I'm struggle about the fact that the off-takers need OPEX help to finance their project. I see the certification barriers. I see the regulation barriers. I see a lot of barriers, but still it's a way we are a way moving forward because 6 years ago it was strategy. We are speaking about numbers, big numbers, in fact, very big numbers. And now we are dealing with the first project. It's 5, 10, 20 megawatts, but still we see really concretely the things behind this project. A second MOU has been signed with Namibia. And so when, because they are the shipping industry and the port industry that are very attractive and very strong in Belgium, and they are investing there. And so when I see Morocco, I see that there is a big industry. There is the ammonia industry. So the RTSO will invest in 2028 in the first ammonia hub, let's say. So I see so many links between what the investment that are coming in Belgium and Morocco that I think that we need at least the third or the fourth MOUs between Belgium should be in Morocco. That's why I'm here, because I really believe that that this collaboration between Belgium and Morocco is very key. And because we are speaking about big numbers, we are speaking about long-term relationship, but I prefer to take small steps. And so I've proposed to my region, so I'm working for Wallonia and Belgium. There's 3 regions and within Belgium. And one of the region have decided with my proposition in collaboration with ERSN to finance a small electrolyzer. So next year we will provide a small electrolyzer to make some test R&D and training for ERSN, because I think the bigger, let's say, barrier than I see, it's the lack of knowledge in the hydrogen world. It's quite complex because it's between chemical industry. It's a mix of different engineering capabilities, and we miss in Europe these capabilities. For sure, in Africa we miss as well. So I think the first opportunity is to make capacity building, to be ready when you will build the gigafactory. You need human resources. In Belgium, we have manufacturers of electrolyzers, the worldwide bigger manufacturers than Cockerill. We have manufacturers of Van Hool, the bus of hydrogen. So these players, they need resources in Africa. They don't do by themselves everything. So it's joint ventures way of thinking. So we need this workforce. And the second thing, I think, Morocco, when I see, and I'm going from more than 10 years here, I see that there is a strong innovation and capability for innovation. And ERSN is a perfect example. And I think for the European program, we should target as European countries to have Morocco as partner for Horizon Europe projects and to build innovation here, because it's a strong asset for Morocco that you have, and then we don't see maybe in South Africa, but it's very far. So I think it's a great asset, and what we are trying is to build that. So maybe I hope that next year we can announce a first innovative project between Belgium and Morocco.
I hope so. And I remember 12 years ago when we spoke about the concentrated solar power plants. At the beginning, we had only then a lot of PowerPoints, and all the people told us, when are we expecting them to start with the power plants, not only with the PowerPoints. I think that we will start very soon with the real projects, and capacity building is very important, of course, to prepare the upscaling. Reda, I'm so sorry for the second panel. I guess we will finish in less than 10 minutes. I'm so sorry for the delay. We had then to start late because I know then we had to fight then against the breakfast, and I think it was then more interesting as geopolitics. Cedric, I would like then to ask you, when do you expect to become then a hub for green molecules in Europe?
In fact, the recovery plan that is behind the COVID situation and the war in Ukraine has accelerated very fastly the investment in Europe in terms of infrastructure. So I think we will be ready for the infrastructure. We need to be ready for the production assets, so electrolyzing production and so on. Still, I think the very big issue would be the off-taking and securitization of financing there. In Europe, only 10% of the project has been successfully gone to the financial closer. So I think it's the big issue right now. But I think Belgium in 2026 or 7, the majority of investment will be already done to host green molecules in Belgium. So not everything will be ready in that stage, but because of the recovery plan in 2026, all the investment has to be on the ground. So we have that pressure. I think it's a good thing because we have this pressure of Europe to realize the investment very quickly. It's a challenge for everyone. Everyone that work in the hydrogen world is very busy and I think very tired for the moment. But still, I think it's a great challenge for Europe to place ourselves as a leader, and we need still. It's the global message that I want we need this collaboration with countries like Morocco.
Thank you very much. I would like then to ask Frank, based on your long experience as an expert, as an evangelist, no, I'm sorry, as a game changer, how do we see then the timeline to build the first corridors between Morocco or then other African countries and Europe?
Yeah, that's of course not an easy question to answer because if you look at it, you do the maths, and it all makes sense. Europe needs imports. Part of the infrastructure is already there, but it's also it requires courage. And at the moment, I'm not seeing. It's a combination of courage and also individuals. Unfortunately, you see that. We had a champion in Europe, Frans Timmermans, executive vice president, who was a big fan of Morocco when he actually, when he had to defend his own position in 2019 in front of European Parliament. Somebody asked him, "What about Morocco?" And he said, "In my dream, we will import hydrogen from Morocco." So it's not like this is something that we have to reinvent. Unfortunately, now he left. He resigned, and he wants to become Prime Minister of the Netherlands. Maybe in that position he'll kickstart it, but we don't know who is next. And it's also unfortunately still sometimes up to individuals like that who have a vision and actually the political clout to push through. Because also within the European Commission we have a similar situation as the minister said yesterday. Half of them are convinced and the other half still think that we can do everything with electricity. So it's not a very clear line of sight. And then again, also Ukraine gave us a wake-up call that being dependent on an outside country doesn't always have to be good. Again, the same Frans Timmermans told us actually before the war in Ukraine that energy dependence is not a bad thing because it does provide stability. You don't really, even now, I mean, we don't like it, but Europe still buys gas from Russia, LNG imports as well as pipeline gas. It's gone down tremendously, but we're still doing it, even though you don't want it. So in that sense, I think in the future we'll have trade flows internationally, hopefully through pipelines, because that's just the cheapest way to do. But it really requires courage and some people that are convinced and actually are able to do this.
Thank you very much, Frank. I would like then to ask Nadia. Nadia, when we will have in the near future the first corridors, how do you see or how the hydrogen economy will help the global climate change efforts?
It will play a pivotal role in helping meet the climate targets. As hydrogen is such an effective green energy carrier, we have to remember it's not a source, it's a carrier that can be transported both as electrons or molecules. It will facilitate the hard-to-abate industries, right, that are very challenging through sector coupling, which is this well-known concept of how to really integrate hydrogen into all kinds of industries, right? Mobility, for sure. We already know that there's a lot of activities to drive sustainable aviation fuel. That's, of course, one of the means to an end. We should look at all these final products, such as steel, right? We will see green steel production also enabled through hydrogen. Industry, heat and cooling of buildings, also decarbonization of industrial processes today, right? Where we know that gray hydrogen is a feedstock. There's an opportunity, if we have excess green hydrogen, to actually use that into decarbonizing existing quite dirty processes. I mean, that is not just for export, but also solving domestic targets and reaching nationally defined climate ambitions, right? We have great examples of that here in Morocco, right? With OCP and the mining industry being one of those industries that can really drive and spearhead this development. So it will have a significant impact. I want to stress two other points, though, that with the obvious need of accelerating renewable energy, we still cannot ignore the fact that it does create intermittencies and instabilities on the grid, whether you have a grid or not. I mean, in many countries in Africa, is a very weak grid. So the grid transmission networks really needs to be part of the development agenda of the strategy roadmap. It cannot be ignored. It's not just about producing power, it's also transporting power, which is really essential. And the second point is, and we heard it also from Madame le Ministre Ben Ali yesterday, natural gas as a transition. I think we need to still remember that it's a transition, and in this aspect, from a technology perspective, what we are doing at Siemens Energy is making sure that our gas turbines are hydrogen capable. So that we prepare our gas turbines, and they are important to provide stability in this transition and actually help accelerate decarbonization as well, especially for economies that are very coal-based. I mean, every step to reduce carbon emissions is a positive step. So we need to embrace that there's a multitude of technologies that need to work hand in hand with the ambition to accelerate the decarbonization. So just on that, some of our gas turbines can already today operate 70% hydrogen and 30% methane gas. And our ambition is to get to 100% operations on hydrogen, subject, of course, to the excess of hydrogen and all this vision becoming reality. That will happen, and we can then repurpose also many of the power plants out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadia. We understood that you speak English, you speak Moroccan, and you speak also Siemens.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. For your statements, we understood that we need regional cooperation partnerships. We need capacity building. We need infrastructures. We need, as you said, then the adapted networks and commitments, as you said, Frank. I think that there are a lot of people who are committed. And of course, we need projects and opportunities. And this is then the topic of the next session. Then again, sorry for the delay. And I would like then to give the floor to Madam Khadija Ihsan. Thank you very much. And looking forward then to meeting you soon, next year, I hope. Thank you.